Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady checking in with part 3 of my mid-April weekly garden tour. I'm starting here on the south side of the house and I wanted to just do this whole border because there is so much to see. Of course, this is the season where I am really busy traveling. I'm not doing a lot of garden projects because all of my hard work over the winter is finally coming to fruition and I actually get to enjoy the garden. So I hope you'll enjoy today's tour as there are so many amazing flowers to get you inspired. Well, this was one of the later beds that I sowed, and I'm thrilled that the California poppies are the first to burst into bloom. Been eating lots of strawberries from this patch. They are delicious. And I'm very encouraged to see all the other poppies are growing really well. And you can see the breadseed poppies that are my traditional breadseed poppies are already starting to form flower buds. So they might be in bloom by next week. Now along here you can see the Sarissa is in full bloom. This is one called Apple Blossom. We've got onions across the front of the border to help deter the rabbits and deer. And behind that I've got Shasta, not very well espaliered against the house here. Now I'm really thrilled to show you, it doesn't look like much, but the papyrus did successfully overwinter. It is starting to break dormancy. Of course, by the end of the season, that gets huge, like 6 to 8 foot tall. It is growing in just a pond liner and filled with compost, and now it's filled with roots. Here's another Sarissa. I don't remember the cultivar name, but I really like this one because it's small. It's really kind of good for bonsai. You can see again California poppies, and look, there's a ripe strawberry. Delicious. Well, you can see my favorite broadleaf evergreen tree, Neolithia sericea, is really putting on its spring display with these very soft, velvety new growth. This is just a terrific tree. I see there's a great nest up in there as well. I've been contemplating whether I should prune because it's kind of crowding things, and you can see it's got a lot of branches and it'd probably benefit from just being a single leader. But until that nest is not occupied, I think I'm just gonna leave it alone. This is totally how I end up not doing any pruning. Cause it's like, oh, I don't want to disturb the birds. Also, just don't feel like doing the work. I'll just go ahead and admit, a lot of my reluctance to prune, it's not the pruning part, it's the dragging to the woods part that I don't enjoy. Now, my fruit snacks, apples are in bloom, and these are so awesome. And I've had a few people ask where they can buy them, and I'm not exactly sure, but I'm gonna try and find out. And of course, they are making great progress on the greenhouse. Once the greenhouse is finished, these do have a home. I've got 3 varieties. I got these a year ago, so proof that they can be crowded in a pot and still be very successful. So in yesterday's tour, I showed you the Chinese fringe tree. Here we have the native one, Virginicus. This is a cultivar called Spring Fleecing, and it's just absolutely exquisite. It's a little later to bloom than the Asian one, and it's great that it's in flower now. You can see the deer continue to absolutely devour all the camellias. Yeah, not really sure what the fate of camellias are in this property. It's just very sad. And then this bed has really filled in. I mean, it's amazing with the longer days, and of course we're getting really warm weather, which makes a huge difference, but how everything jumps. I mean, you can see the garlic border, all the grains. The bachelor buttons are starting to bloom in here. You can see the larkspur is really already starting to initiate some flower buds, and soon the nigella will really be in bloom, and this is going to be magnificent. Now obviously you see behind here the greenhouse is going up. It's so exciting compared to a week ago at this time when I was like, oh no, is it gonna happen? It is happening, and they were even here today on Sunday working. So I'm really excited. Hopefully in a few weeks that will be complete. I do have some weeding that needs to be done in here because, of course, there is still so much of that geranium that is really bolting, soon to be flowering and going to seed. So I've got the opportunity in the next few days to get in here and clear that out. Same thing with cleavers, which are my absolute nemesis. I see some right here. You know, I've been really conscientious to try and make sure to get this out anytime I see it. Just for poor Reginald and Sophia's fur. Boy, is it ever a capable plant. Oh, I hate it so much. Well, you can really see there's a lot of poppies coming. These are the giant poppies that were sown late, but I'm thrilled to see that they are going to kind of populate along the edge. And that'll really help give this some extra interest because it is really dominated by the self-sown Nigella, which is right here. Soon that will be blooming. You see lots of poppies over here in this border, along with money plant, which is blooming, lunaria, and aquilegias are starting to flower, the nice columbines. And of course, in this mess, you can see there's lots of chickweed. I need to spend some time dealing with that. Now, can you believe how huge these sunflowers are? Because I can't. These are, you know, compost bin sunflowers. And I'm glad I have the cage because I think the deer would be eating them. But I've never had sunflowers this large in the middle of April. And I've got to say, these double hellebores are just knocking my socks off. This is the best hellebore display I've ever had. This one in particular is just magnificent and it keeps putting out new blooms. So they're nice and actually kind of upright at this season. I'm not plucking them because I'm not making floating arrangements. It's much too warm. The water gets too hot and everything decomposes in one day. But I am really, really thoroughly enjoying these hellebores. And of course, behind those are my favorite thing in the whole world, Barley, the beauty queen. This was barley that we sowed in early September, and it's really gotten me rethinking my seeding timetable because it looks so good right now in the middle of April, being sown several months earlier than I normally would. And I've got to say, I just love how it's looking with that new compost pile kind of sprouting out through the middle. We had the birthday party last night, and this was definitely one of the things that everyone commented on was how beautiful the barley is. And not only is it beautiful, but you know, it was a great winter cover crop. I didn't have a weed issue where the barley's growing, and those deep roots are acting as nutrient scavengers, drawing nutrients back up to the surface. So this summer when I replant it, I really won't have to fertilize. So this is definitely one of my all-time favorite plants. If you don't learn anything from me, I hope that you will get inspired to include grains in your garden because they are easy and they are absolutely spectacular. And of course, I hope that you will come to Open Garden, which is scheduled for Saturday, May 11th from noon to 4 p.m. It's free, no registration, rain or shine. We're going to have an awesome plant sale. You can check out the details on my website, breegrows.com, link in the description. And, you know, because that is just slightly under a month away, I don't exactly know, like the barley may already be starting to turn auburn, which would be really exciting because usually the barley and other grains are at this stage for the Open Garden. So it'll be really cool if this is a little further ahead so that people can really see how gorgeous it is when it gets that incredible kind of dried coloration. Well, everything in this border is filling out great. You know, remember, this was sown very late. We did this in February, and I'm so pleased with how everything is growing. We really don't have much open space at all, which is always my goal. Of course, I need to do some weeding because I have this geranium everywhere. You can see the geranium is in the lawn. We do need to mow, but as long as the geranium is in the grass, I'm going to always have it in the beds. And I'm just not willing to put down the necessary herbicide to kill it in the turf, because I kind of just come from the philosophy of if it's green, you mow it. But there is a downside to that, and that is that this turf is really made up of a lot of undesirable plants. It fills in the summer, but in the wintertime, when the warm season turf is dormant, I have a lot of weed infestations in here. Well, this border is definitely kicking into gear. I love those daffodils that are still in bloom. What a treat. And the daikon radish is the white. We've got lettuce that's blooming right now. That's what this is lettuce. The California poppies are just starting. And we have a lot of corn poppies in here that are getting ready to start creating flower buds. So soon this is going to be magnificent. I obviously did not get all the vetch, and at this stage I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not going to get all the vetch, which means I'm setting myself up for trouble next year, but sometimes that's just how it is. I don't want to weed it now because it'll compromise all the other things that are growing in here. So I'm disappointed in myself for not getting this section under control a bit better. But, well, that's why I like to show you the successes and the failures. I think there's a lot of value from both. I am really pleased with the clumps of grains. Of course, you know, we sowed this entire thing during our cottage garden seed sale and demonstration last fall in November. And having the grains grow as clumps really does make it read a bit more legibly, even though the rest of the bed is kind of chaotic. You know, this may not be the design approach for everyone, but if you're trying to cover a lot of square footage for not a lot of money, direct seeding these things in, you know, November, December, January, February is a really good approach for easy land management. All right, let's go into the woodland. And I did get some plants last week that I will be putting in here. You see, this is Zizia. I got this at Piedmont Feed in Chapel Hill. I'm really pleased with that. The trilliums are just about finished. I think they just did so well. And I did buy a bunch of plants last week when I was in Virginia from the Master Gardeners. They had great native perennial plugs. So like here's some wood aster. I got various types of carex and well, a nice selection of stuff that I didn't actually have. So I'm really pleased. We do need some rain. Watering back here is a bit of a challenge. But it's great to see so many of the perennials that we put in last year starting to really pop up and emerge. And of course, we have a lot of problem plants in here, including things like honeysuckle right here and privet right here, and all these little privets are actually attached to much larger privets because we just cut everything back last year. So we have a lot of work ahead of us in here. But, you know, we were talking about it yesterday, and the nice thing with the woods is it's so much cooler than everywhere else. So it'll be nice to come back here on hot days. But we do have to be really cautious because we have a ton of poison ivy right there, and it's all over. So we have grapevine, which is not desirable, honeysuckle, we have privets, and we do have, like I mentioned, poison ivy coming up everywhere. It's all over back here. So I'm especially allergic to poison ivy. I have to be really careful. It's probably one of the main reasons I don't enjoy woodland gardening. So yeah, as I'm panning through here, it is a bit intimidating, but we're going to tackle it. So we also just got a notice from the city of Fuquay that they are going to put a road on the backside of our woodland. And we knew that that was possible because they had to disclose it when we bought the houses. But maybe for some reason we were being naive, thinking maybe they wouldn't do it. I actually thought they would put it on the other side of the church. We have a church that our property touches, and it just doesn't seem like there's enough room between the church and our woodland to put a road in. But we got the map, and we're going to have a road on the back side of our property, which is going to change things a lot. And to be honest, I mean, we don't have a choice. It's not something, like, there's nothing I can do. But I do think it's going to make the woodland that much wetter because there'll be that much more impermeable space from the road. That'll make more water shed in, which I guess could be good or bad. I mean, I'm just going to roll with it and see. I'm not very motivated, though, to try and establish more square footage back here because I don't want to see the road. And what I have here with, you know, it's kind of unkept with a lot of invasive plants in here, but it's pretty well blocked. I don't want to go through and start clearing it because then I'll have a view of traffic and it'll make it noisy. So that was kind of not the greatest letter to get in the mail, I guess is how I'll put it. But it is what it is, and I'm feeling good about the amount of space that we have cleared, because if I can manage this well, I can be satisfied with what I have, and I don't actually need to keep going farther back. At least that's what I'm telling myself right now. Well, I did want to show you that a lot of the native azaleas that we transplanted last summer from out front are blooming, and they are wonderful. You can see there, I'm really keen on this yellow one. Remember, these are all seed grown from Carolina native, and gosh, they're just so beautiful. I am so happy that we had good transplant success. I've got a few that haven't broken dormancy, so those probably are casualties, but for the most part, considering the stress that they were under when we moved them, it's really amazing that so many are doing so well. And speaking of successes, I've got to give it to this Paccaria aurea. Now, I'm assuming because it's going to seed that I'm going to start seeing this pop up all over the place, which is perfectly fine. I am so impressed with this plant, considering we planted this in July as plugs, landscape plugs, and it totally colonized this border. And, you know, it really held it in place. So we had a lot of erosion issues when we first cleared. And that has just been a real joy to see blooming all spring. Also just wanted to come down and show you this awesome Ericema that's still in bloom. Look at those cool flowers. So the woodland is definitely a project that I'm a bit intimidated by. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm really grateful to get to have the opportunity to grow plants back here and start to be a better steward to the property. Well, and here in front of the garage, I just wanted to show you these California poppies are blooming their heads off, as are these self-sown corn poppies. It's been really exciting to have poppies blooming so early this year, and of course to have the larkspur starting as well. It's really magnificent. It's yeah, hope springs eternal in a garden, everybody. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this weekly garden tour. I look forward to sharing another update tomorrow that I'm going to focus on all of the containerized plants that I have growing on both properties, and then be sure to tune in for an update on the natives garden, which is looking really great. Well, everybody, I'm wishing you the best. I hope you have a wonderful week, and thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening.